right, I've got my bad boy Ryan back again on the other side of the coin. We're going to do a um, a madness. I have to say, lots to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. From formations to Kai Havertz playing as a winger against Palace, Pulisic as a cam at times, and then obviously the change in formation once the substitutions came on. We're going to talk about N'Golo Kante and his role in attacking areas. Um, where do we picture that down the track? And of course, the biggest talk of the town, Romelu Lukaku as well. We're going to get what Ryan has to say about this situation. Obviously, you guys would have seen my video that had the holistic perspective on Romelu Lukaku. But today we're gonna try and elaborate on all of these matters to a different level, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. Welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. My man Ryan, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's been about 3, 4 weeks since I've been here. Unfortunately, not much has changed at Chelsea. I thought I was gonna be coming back into Champions League time with we got some momentum, we got some good performances in. I mean, we did get important wins. We are champions of
We,
the
we
world
got we got a
now.
trophy. We got a trophy.
But you know, a lot of the problems that was there 4 weeks ago
Mm,
is still here. But I feel as if we have a greater perspective on what is going on now that we've had more or less the same fit team around for this past
mm,
4 or 5 weeks. Before we had good excuses that, most of our team were injured or ill and coming back in. But now
mm.
they've been back for 4 or 5 weeks. So
Yeah.
now there's a clear identity that Tuchel is going for. How clear that identity is, well, not really clear, but let's try to
Mm.
go in as best as we could into it and tackle some of the issues that's been going around for quite some time.
No, 100%. I'm going to bring up the tactical board very soon, but it's an interesting point to start off with that identity factor. Let's start here to create a picture for the audience out there because this is an important part to then segue into the other components of what we want to discuss. You touched upon the identity, and this is something I talked about in recently. I don't know if the listeners and the viewers, if you guys have tuned in on a particular space that Matisse hosted earlier today. And there was a lot of people, Ryan, they were talking about let's get this player in, let's get that player in, let's get this player out, let's get that player out, and so on and so forth. But no one really was talking about, well, before we decide who to get in and who to get out, isn't it more important to understand how we want to play our football? Because that will then dictate who should stay and who shouldn't stay, depending on their skill set. I mean, Ryan, I want to throw this question to you to start this discussion. You've just mentioned that you're a bit concerned that now that everyone's back and there's no testing positive situations, injuries not huge besides the obvious ones, obviously with Reece James and Ben Chilwell. Are you a bit surprised that Thomas Tuchel hasn't been able to find a different solution and stick to it? There has been the variation, obviously, with the four at the back and Ziyech getting the best out of it. But then we've also gone back to the three as well, knowing we don't have proper wing backs to play that. So, Ryan, how do you feel about the situation that Thomas Tuchel in recent times hasn't really adapted to the situation that there is no Reece James, there is no Ben Chilwell? Let's now focus on a new style to play with.
Well, Miz, formation is one thing. I think when you
Mm.
think about formation, it does not really matter that much in the scheme of things because
Yeah.
within the game, the opposition is going to set up numerically in 3 or 2 lines of defense, okay? And it is when you're faced with that that you have to actually think about, okay, how are we going to approach this line of defense? Where are we going to get numerical superiority? Where are we going to attack from? And how are we going to penetrate these lines? If we're going to play through
Mm.
or around them, keep that last line in mind. If
Yeah.
we're going to play through or around them, And that answer has not been clear. So I don't care about shape, I don't care about formation. I care about philosophy underlying the
Absolutely.
system.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what philosophy is Tuchel trying to bring to this Chelsea team at the moment. If I think about Thomas Tuchel and PSG and Dortmund, yes, one thing you know, that's very popular in a Tuchel system is that he loves ball playing center backs and deep ball playing midfielders, right? That they can recycle play, right? But once the ball enters the attacking phase of the opposition, it's all about quick one touch passing, getting into the final third and scoring goals. A lot of numbers in and around the box. He loves to say that line, getting a lot of touches around the box to
Yeah.
score
Yeah.
goals. That is Tuchel's philosophy. He loves a patient build up, but when it enters a certain zone of the pitch is where it really unleashes. I'll get into that later when I bring in the board because I have a really good demonstration. But um, as far as I'm concerned, the last time we've really seen that the foundation of that philosophy was in October, November in our purple patch. We call it a purple patch, but Miz, honestly, it was just 2 games. It was Norwich and Juventus, and Leicester, 3 games. So it
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
really a purple patch either. It was 3 games that we played really, really well.
I
Like
mean, to
we,
call it a patch, you would have to say
yeah,
maybe 7, 8 games worth, right?
yeah. This was 3 games. Okay, it was 3 games, but we saw an identity. We saw a philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miz, last year as soon as Tuchel came in, we saw a philosophy from a full stop, from a little poison drop, an ink drop,
Yeah.
sorry. And then that ink drop, our poison drop got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we saw that philosophy building as time went on. But the thing is, from October, we saw a philosophy that was building on, which was put a halt upon the injury of Chilwell and Reece James. But Miz, it's been 5 to 6 weeks since we've gotten our whole squad except for those two, but we haven't seen a philosophy build and
It's
build and
true.
build since then. Ever since we've been on the back foot, finding tactical solutions game out, specifically for that numerical battle or that defense to scrape wins. Well, coming into the business end of the season and Tuchel's second season,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing us being anywhere close to establishing his philosophy, and that's what's very worrying.
No, you're 100% bang on, man. I mean, I can't sit here any longer, Ryan, and just pretend there's no fault from Thomas Tuchel's side. Like, I appreciate the fact that this man is doing a miraculous job. There's no doubt about that. He's still picking up trophies. He's doing great. But I'm worried that, as you've mentioned as well, alluded to, whether here or just off air, that it's not sustainable. Yes, we've got injuries, but these are long-term injuries, so you're going to have to adapt and figure out a different way to tackle, a different philosophy, as you're saying. As I've always agreed with you on this point, and this is something that I've been trying to drive within, this community of the other side of the coin, is that it's never about the formation. It's about the ideology of how I want to attack an opponent and how I want to defend. You need to have a set rule, and then you have variations depending on which oppositions you play. But the variations should not be a massive disparity between playing 3-4-3 one day and then playing 4-1-4-1 the other, some other time. Um, it seems like it's a complete change of style. So yeah, it's very important as to how we want to attack. It's an exciting thing to talk about. Let's bring up this particular tactical board, Ryan. Let's
Hmm.
talk about
Let's talk about
what
this
we.
guy here. This guy in yellow. I brought him in. This is Yumiz with in the yellow Australian jersey here.
I love it. I love it, bro.
Coming in to show these guys how to play football. You are the manager today. This is Miss Ball here. This is the manager on the sidelines, and we're gonna have him saying what everybody has to do, right,
I
guys?
love this. I love this, Ryan. That's a new addition to your tactical board. And I look very fine. I'm very happy with how I look. A little bit chubby, but I'm a bit chubby from
And
from
that's
the
all the
gut
knowledge.
area.
That's all the knowledge you
That's all
have,
the
bro.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, Ryan, let's talk about this first initial match back in the Premier League after so long. Thomas Tuchel opted to go with, I initially thought it was a 4-1-4-1. I think that's what you sort of stated as well. And then later on, it turned into a 4-2-3-1 when we had the subs. Um, do you want to just run through what you saw in terms of our build up, how Palace was trying to negate that? And then we'll talk about Kai Havertz, Pulisic, Kante, and what their role was. Were they comfortable? Were they the right personnel? And then eventually enough, we'll talk about Lukaku down the track. But yeah, go on, man.
Yeah, yeah. So, Ms. Tuchel said, I don't know if you saw his interview, but he said sometimes we build a 4-1, sometimes we build a 3-2.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. I remember
that
that.
does not
Yep.
change anything for Lukaku. It's
Yep.
the same. But he did admit a week ago that Ziyech, when we played three at the back versus Palmeiras in the final, he didn't play Ziyech because it would change his role, and he struggles a bit in that role. Okay,
Yep. And he admitted
so
that in recent press conference, saying that he didn't play Ziyech against Palmeiras because of the three at the back. And when Ziyech did fantastically well against Spurs not that long ago, he said that is Ziyech's best position.
yeah. So now, Miss, we need to think about. We always say three at the back, four at the back, three at the back, four at the back. Well, when you build with three at the back, four at the back, that affects this zone of people here, right?
Yeah.
But we need to think about these zone of people first, so people can have a clear idea. I see people on Twitter all the time. They say, "Oh, Tuchel is a tactical genius. We switch from a back three to a four to a three to a four." Every team does that. Every team does that. It isn't just Tuchel, because we need to think about how the team is setting up the press first and foremost, right, Miz? If we look at this here, right, we know that sometimes teams press it a 5-3-2, a 4-4-2. This time, Vieira set up in a 4-2-3-1 press. I mean, he actually got our number. He really did get our number, and I'm very impressed with him. He set up, first of all, he set up with a front one press, which allowed Rudiger and Thiago Silva to keep a back four, to keep two center backs around each other, right? But what he did is that he kept a wide second line of defense, which is that 3 and a 4-2-3-1. What that did is it completely man-marked Sa and Christensen from receiving that ball from Rudiger and Thiago Silva, right? Now we're thinking here, well, maybe we should play out from Jorginho and play out from the back. No, that can't really happen very good, because if you see that from a 4-2-3-1 against our 4-1-4-1, in the midfield we are matched up 3 versus 3, right?
Yeah.
So to against a high pressing team, which Palace was pressing aggressively, right? They probably wasn't pressing high because of only one on top, but in the
Yeah.
midfield area, they were pressing very aggressive to win the ball, and they really wanted to win the ball in these areas and then break away, in advantageous areas. That's how this saw Zaha getting so much chances also, right? Through that breakaway. Let me just undo that circle there. But yes, so they had a numerical 3 versus 3. That made it very hard to build play centrally, because we are man marked 1v1 everywhere in the midfield. It's compact. There isn't much space to progress play. If we lose it, we could be in very big trouble. Okay, so what Tuchel did, which was really smart, but I don't know if Tuchel really instructs this, or it's just ball playing smarts by Chelsea. It could be either, right? We switched our back three. We switched our back three. We switched a makeshift. We shift a makeshift 3-5-2. We actually shift a makeshift 3-5-2. Why did we do this, Miz? Because we did this to rotate play amongst our back three, so that we can draw in a high press from these wingers here, right? We drew in that high press in the first half from these wingers. And what you see here is players like Sa and
Sar and
Ziyech
Ziyech are now
being
free.
in a plethora of space. A plethora of space.
Just to interject, is that one of the reasons why Sa saw a lot of space in the first half specifically? where not only he had the opportunity to bomb up, but he was also putting in some really nice passes from that area. One, obviously, setting up Kante.
This is exactly what was happening. He got that space, and then from there, Kai could have made runs in behind. One time we saw a Lukaku try to make a run in from a saw ball. We saw Kante running in behind. We saw those runs in behind, and that was very positive. Also, from Ziyech's side, we saw Kante running in behind. We saw
Yeah,
Lukaku trying to make some runs in behind. So that was our tactic in the first half. Listen, we did not play fantastic football,
yeah.
but we need to give credit to Vieira and that 4-2-3-1 because it really man marked us 1v1 and Chelsea found a way to create space despite that. So that was really good. It wasn't pretty on the eye, but we found a way. Unfortunately, when Lukaku and these guys, things just didn't click. Whether the ball wasn't getting to them or they weren't doing anything much with the ball when they got into these areas. But let me just go quickly what happened in the second half before we interject with some questions for sure.
Yeah.
What really changed to this change into 4-2-3-1 is that in the second half, Vieira realized, okay, because y'all pressing so high, they're getting too much space on the sides, right? So what
Yeah.
he did was he went back to his initial plan. He had his wingers sit back and defend and mark the likes of Sa and Ziyech. What we did, we realized this threat was on, so we just reverted back to our back four. We was like, okay, things aren't working out. We don't need to keep three center backs. We need to get numbers forward now, right? Because this match is going down the wire. We need to win, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we went back to our back four. Uh, we ran back into that same problem in the first half being marked 1v1, right, Miz?
Yeah.
And what Tuchel did is that he changed to 4-2-3-1. I'm not going to make the changes by name, but I'll just imagine that Jorginho and Kante are Loftus-Cheek and Kovacic, right?
Yeah.
He placed Kai in an attacking midfield position and Pulisic and Ziyech as the wingers, right? With Alonso coming in also at the wing. What happened here is that we are able to make formidable wide overloads now, right?
It's that
Through,
diamond shape that you've always talked about on that right or left side.
yeah. So with Ziyech dropping deep as the side of that diamond and Kai making runs in behind, we're able to make a formidable diamond. As you can see, before in the first half, we were man marked 1v1. We did not have numerical superiority. We had numerical equilibrium, which made it hard for us, right? Um, Now that we see through this diamond overload here, we now have 3 versus 3. Sorry, sorry. Undo that there. Um, what we see now is that with, sorry, let me just move these lines. Oh, with Kovacic approaching, right, and Pulisic making runs in behind, we actually had this DM marking Lukaku in behind. And what we actually got into a situation where we were actually, with Loftus-Cheek roaming so far forward, we actually got into a 3v2 situation on top through this overload. And this is how we were able to get in behind from these overloads because we actually took a risk and had our two DMs roam forward and join the attack this time. So this is why
Yeah.
we're seeing us getting into those positions. And now this brings up a whole topic here. This isn't our main topic. I went over that for 8 minutes because I really wanted to get down to this baseline.
Yeah.
If you want to play attacking possession based one touch quick football, you need to have numerical superiority in the zones that you want to build play through, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's from wide overloads or central overloads, whether it's vertical central football or vertical wide football with crosses, you need to have numerical superiority to facilitate those short pass football, right? Because
Yeah.
the thing is, the only way you can have short passes is if you have players in close proximity to each other, right? And with Chelsea, we see a reluctance. We see a complete reluctance to have players in close proximity to each other. Um,
Yeah.
Ms. I hope you don't mind me, but I want to go back to a back three here in our normal formation,
Yeah.
right?
Go for it, bro. Go for it.
Versus Palmeiras, they defended in a 5-3-2, right?
Mm.
and we use a completely different approach. Okay, so the attack using a 5-3-2. So we attacked using a 3-1-3, right?
Yeah.
3-1-3. I know this is looking a bit mad right now, but yo, guys, just pretend size mount, okay? Just pretend size mount, right?
Yeah.
But we attacked using a 3-1-3-3, right, Miss? We
Yeah.
attacked using that here. And what we did is we tried to build play centrally, but we run into the same problem that happens all the time. Yes, we gain numerical equilibrium here and matched up to their midfield three, which could facilitate short passes. But yet again, there's a reluctance from our wide inside forwards to drop between the lines and completely own between the lines to facilitate that tiki taka one touch football that's needed to
Yeah.
play through teams. And that is what the massive problem I was trying to tell you about before we recorded this video. Everybody talks about we need a DM, that we need a CB, that we need a striker. Miss,
Yeah.
we don't have any players who could completely rule between the lines. We don't have
Mm.
any players who can receive passes with their back towards goal between the lines under pressure, who could link play up with players in close proximity, turn and find passes in behind. We don't have players to completely rule between the lines like a Kevin De Bruyne, a Bernardo Silva, a Mane, a Salah, a Messi, and Neymar. And this
We
is what is
simply
needed.
don't have that. And you're right. This is the fundamental issue. This is why some of these players they look alienated when it comes to our attacking phase.
Yeah, and it, people have this idea, let's play possession-based quick football. And I heard you say something, Miss, that why doesn't your stop bothering me here? I'll just put mom. um, I don't have 19 available. We put number 18, right? So what I'm saying, Miss, you say that there's a reluctance for Chelsea to break two lines of defense with their passes,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
disagree because many times you would see Rudiger making those passes in
He
behind.
has.
We
Yeah.
would see Thiago Silva making those passes. We would see Ziyech making those passes. What I believe there's a complete reluctance to actually play through these lines step by step, right?
Yeah.
Because if you ever notice, our ball progression often stops here, right? Because anytime we get it into these zones, our inside forwards just lay it off back, and then it's up to our wide players to run in behind and collect the ball, right? And this is completely unheard of for a possession-based team wanting to win a EPL title or a league title. If you want to become one of the best possession-based teams, you need players who could completely own between the lines.
Yeah.
And be brave, courageous, find those passes, link up with players, because it's only when you have players in close proximity like this together is when you could use Lukaku as a reference point. Because
Yeah.
let me ask you something. If we have Kai far away here, we have a wing back here, um, Pulisic, yeah, let's pretend Pulisic is a wing back, right? Um, right? We have a wing back here, right?
Yeah.
Once Lukaku gets the ball, we always trying to say, why can't we get the ball to Lukaku? What is he going to do at this point? There's nobody between the lines around
Yeah.
them
No
at
one
which,
close to him that he can do something about that ball.
yeah, and we could play off of. And next thing is that when you have players in close proximity to each other, when one defender comes in, the next one has to stay back, and now you have more space between the lines for one, at least one of your players. This is the free man. This is what you call the free man. You've seen the Chavi video where he talks about it, that there's a box and there's players who operate between the line. You always find that free man through numerical superiority.
Yeah.
The only way you could play possession based football is through this numerical superiority. Chelsea does not do that, and it's a big problem that we have in attack.
No, you're absolutely bang on, man. I mean, you're right to the degree that there are times that Rudiger or Thiago Silva will go long, so to bypass the section. But I think one of the key components that you've touched on is the players being close proximity to each other to play off of each other in a possession based system is so crucial. And this is now I want to talk about a couple of individual players that I feel are not completely understanding how we want to play this possession-based football. I'll touch on, let's say, three players, which is very important in this whole scenario: Kai Havertz, Pulisic, and N'Golo Kante. Right now, Kai, for some reason, against in that Palace game, and I don't know whether it was instruction or not. Perhaps it might have been. He was so wide at times, especially in the first half. He was a winger. You had Pulisic, who was more roaming around through the center of the field, just behind Lukaku, and then you had Kante as well, who was another attacking eight. And I felt that they were all sort of disengaged with each other. They were all doing their own thing, and then at the same time expecting Romelu Lukaku to do some sort of a miracle up front. Were you a bit surprised that we want to play possession-based football and we want to break down opposition through playing possession-based football, keeping the ball? Were you a bit surprised that how disoriented some of our players looked in that scenario? Like they weren't really close by. And I feel like some of the personnel, I don't know whether they were entirely right. I mean, let's start with the N'Golo Kante situation, right? He found himself in such exciting situation in that game, but I feel like his skill set is just not up to the level to be able to play in those positions. Would you agree? You're on mute, bro.
Yeah, sorry. When I said when you have N'Golo Kante playing between the lines for you in a game, something's wrong. Something is
Exactly.
wrong.
It's like he's been given the playmaker role.
Yeah. I mean, Miz, where it really comes down to is a team that's willing to suffer for each other, right? To play as a unit for each other, right? When you have, okay, 5-3-2 is like a popular setup people uses against Chelsea, right? When they
Yep.
play a three at the back, right? So let's just take this for example. Here we can see that our midfield is completely overpowered here, right? We would need the willingness of one of our wingers to come here and create that numerical superiority in midfield, right? We would need our team to work together in order to beat the second line of defense. What would probably need to happen is that maybe Rudiger could step up as a attacking CB. Alonso could overlap. Kai could come in between the lines, and all of a sudden you see here that we have completely outnumbered their second line of
Yeah.
defense,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And at this point now, what we need is that when Kai receives the ball here, he needs to feel that presence of someone around him that he could play off of. Whether
Yeah.
it's you want like Kante to join the attack. Like, for example, if a Gundogan was here or De Bruyne was playing this pass, they would immediately come up, join the
Yep.
attack. Then
Yep.
Foden or somebody would run in behind, and then Gabriel Jesus is running behind. But the thing with Chelsea is that when we put our midfield, it's kind of like when Kovacic and Kante is in this position, they do not join in between the lines to continue being a possession-based team that
Yeah.
could play that one-touch possession-based football that we described. So it's always down, even if we find numerical possession, yet again, we could recycle to the side, but once it arrives here and that back pass comes in, it never progresses further.
Yeah.
So the problem number one is getting numerical um, superiority. So players need to sacrifice to make this happen, right? They cannot expect to be in a favorable position for this to happen, right?
Correct.
The
Correct.
second thing that needs to happen is that upon receiving the ball here, somebody in this defensive line needs to join. There needs to have company around in order to facilitate that one-touch football. And
Yeah.
that's the thing about Chelsea, that when we don't seem to have that balance between defense and attack, and we often leave our attackers completely isolated to turn and be 1v1 on their own. And sadly, we don't have 1v1 players in our locker to take on players and break lines of defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
do you lose me there?
yeah. Just lost some connection. What was the final bit that you said?
I said that, unfortunately, Chelsea do not have players who could. Okay, so since we do not have players joining in between the lines, we would need the players between the lines to take on defenders 1v1 in tiny space. But unfortunately, Chelsea does not have players with that capacity to be
Yeah.
1v1 with players. And let me tell you something about Kai Havertz. If I were to be a manager, I would want Kai Havertz to be between the lines receiving the ball. But it seems like every time he does, it's a back pass. I've never
Yeah.
seen Kai receive the ball here, turn and release it. If a Bernardo Silva receives that ball here, you know what happens? It's behind.
It's
De
always
Bruyne,
behind and in
Foden.
between.
And,
Yeah.
and, and Xavi was saying that. I know I always refer back to Xavi. I love Xavi. He says that, think about this as a box, right? And think about this as a box, right? He says that these two players here, once you play in this box, there's no going back. That's what he says. He says that when he was allowed to play there in Barcelona, he was happy because there was no going back upon receiving the ball. He said the person who receives the ball here has the sole responsibility of playing it forward in behind.
Yeah.
And that's the identity of a possession based philosophy, attacking philosophy. But the thing is, we do not possess players or the situation for these players to do that. We have 17-year-old and 19-year-olds like Pedri and Gavi and stuff playing in these positions, coached in these positions, and successfully doing it. Why can't a 70 million Kai Havertz do it? Why
Yeah.
can't an amazing Ajax player in Ziyech do it? Why can't a Timo Werner who've played under Nagelsmann do it? And let me tell you something, yeah. People talk about Bundesliga. I write on Bundesliga now, and the immensity of their press and the quickness of their football is so top level. So it shocks me to see Timo struggle so much here at Chelsea, right?
Yeah. You're spot on, and this is why I was a bit shocked that players like Kai Havertz, Christian Pulisic. I mean, you said about Hakim Ziyech. Hakim Ziyech is probably the one that I've seen a lot more of those passes through the channels, or he's trying to find people forward all the time. But Kai, Kante,
Yeah.
Pulisic,
Let me tell you, like,
they seem to be, as you said. I don't know whether they have the technical passing ability. Theoretically, you'd think they do. Maybe not Kante so much, but the other two, Kai Havertz and Pulisic, I'm just shocked that they can't carry this out.
Miss, it's there are worse players in different leagues in poor teams that carry out this role and successfully do it when coached and drilled. You can't tell me that 80 million Havertz, 50 million Werner, Ziyech, Champions League semi-final Ziyech, Mason Mount, one of our most gifted players from the academy, Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, 50 million from Dortmund, cannot be coached into playing this role. You can't tell me that they can't be coached to be playing this role because we have player. coaches like Guardiola and Klopp, who coaches players with the raw materials to become specialists in those positions. Our
Yeah.
players have the raw materials, but in the past 10 months, we have seen no improvement in this regard. When it comes to Ziyech, listen,
Hmm.
Ziyech, when he receives the ball in these positions, he is utterly lost on what to do with it. Whether it's not down to having numerical superiority or what,
There's literally no runners when he gets those balls in those areas.
And it's not that he just doesn't have the capacity to. And also, the
Yeah.
reason why Ziyech does good enough for 1-4-1 is that he doesn't have to beat this last line of defense with his body. He receives the ball
Hmm.
here, so immediately he can see when he can beat that second line of defense because he has a partner with him to play off of. So
Yeah.
then he can run into positions here with his back facing goal and then play those passes. He isn't receiving the ball here. And that's the thing. We don't have play. But I think the problem is, Miss, even if Ziyech is here, who is going to step in? We still need somebody to step in to receive the ball here. And that's where Kai comes in. Kai is often that one who will make that run, or Mount will make that run and receive the ball here. But then again, it comes into the same initial problem. When Kai or Mount receives it here, they aren't good enough to do something productive with it.
Yeah. Nah, you're spot on, man. You're spot on. Just to get your punditry side of it, I mean, we've now looked at a lot of tactical stuff. Why is it, from your perspective, Ryan, that we are failing to somewhat develop this possession style of football? I mean, I'm not saying perfect it, master it, no, because obviously Thomas Tuchel's only been around for just over a year, just over 12 months. Some of these players have not regularly played with each other due to injuries, due to being testing positive. But surely these are some of the, I suppose, sequence of play that they should be training and working on. And we're going to talk about Lukaku very soon. But are you just surprised that 12 months down the track we still look so disoriented up front?
Yeah, I'm really surprised because I'm really searching to find what philosophy of football we are working towards. I'm really trying to find it. And, a lot of people will, I see this tweet like every week. We miss a player like Fabregas to find those long passes in behind. Listen, if you have a team sitting back in a low block, you don't need a player to play two lines of defense. That it counteracts what it means to be a possession-based team. Being a possession-based attacking team is building your attack step by step and getting in behind. So why would you need a player to break 3, 4 lines of defense? Why would you need that long pass every time? What we need is we need all players to get together and attack as a unit, miss. And we just aren't able to do that for some reason. And questions need to be asked about Tuchel in this regard, because you can't tell me that these we don't have an idea of what this team wants to do anymore.
True,
We don't have
true.
against Palmeiras and against Crystal Palace. We reverted to playing around the defense, and we were lucky to find a cross that went inside.
Yeah, yeah.
We were completely lucky to one get a penalty and then for the next game get a cross that went in. Right? Chelsea, it feels as if they are a team out there being not with no instructions. I was gonna tweet this, but I didn't because I was gonna get hate for it. There was 1 month under Lampard where he did not have identity and he got sacked.
Yeah.
It's been nearly 3 to 4 months under Tuchel and we don't have identity. Because before that 1 month, Lampard had identity. People talk about the hexagonal shape, but they're so lame to not realize that that created so much space between the lines for attackers like Ziyech to operate within from wide areas. So I don't know what people make fun of that for. But when it comes down to Tuchel, I'm not saying he should get sacked, no, because I really believe in him as a manager. I know what he's capable
Yeah.
of. But the thing is, it's been 4 months now. You can't keep looking back and saying because Chilwell injured and we didn't get Emerson and this and that.
No,
With the
you're right.
caliber of players Chelsea has,
Yeah.
we should not look lost. Our players are too good to look lost like this. We don't have a
Hmm.
philosophy in the past 4 months. We look lost out there. And that's very worrying for me. Very.
No, absolutely well said, man. And this is why I've been a bit. I'm trying to change my mindset a little bit, where we're bashing players, bashing players, bashing players, and I think it's we got to look at what is Thomas Tuchel doing. And once again, as Ryan said, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a session to bash Tuchel either. He's been doing fantastically, and we want him to stick around. There's no doubt about that. But questions I think need to be asked on Thomas Tuchel as to what is he doing to find a different rhythm or a different philosophy since Chilwell and Reece James have been injured. I mean, we can't just be sitting here and just keep continuing to talk about, oh, well, Chilwell's not there, no Reece James, that's it. Or we can't just shut up shop and that's it, like strike off this particular season. We can't do that. We do need to find other solutions. Let's talk about Romelu Lukaku to round things up. A lot has been said about this particular player, Ryan. I want to hear from you as well. I've recently posted a video which you've watched, and I've now got into a situation that I can't solely blame everything on Lukaku. Yes, there's that interview which creates a bit of, I suppose, nuisance in the back of our mind that well, we can't appreciate Lukaku after that. Fine, I get that emotional factor, but take that away for a second, and once again, we look very disengaged as to how we want to operate with Lukaku. And I'm not taking anything away from the fact that Lukaku has been very poor as well. I mean, aerial duels, ground duels, those are stuff that he should be winning, but he's not. But in terms of utilizing him, which goes side by side with what you've sort of shown over here, because I remember that Inter Milan episode that we did quite a long time ago, and how they operated stayed so compact and so close to each other, and they were constantly trying to find Lukaku immediately. Once again, our players, they don't seem to be trying to find Lukaku straight away. I mean, what's your thoughts about the whole Lukaku situation? What are you seeing? What are you observing? Let us know.
When it comes down to Lukaku, I, people often say that he is stagnant, okay? And that he isn't doing much, he isn't getting enough touches on the ball, this and that. But we need to be aware that, we are playing different from how Inter Milan played, right? Inter Milan played, they played with a low defensive line and they played Lukaku into space. Everton played a low defensive line and they played Lukaku into space. These two clubs is where he flourished most in his career. With Chelsea now, the philosophy has changed. When we have played against teams that attacked us, like Aston Villa, and Gerrard attacked us, etc., we've seen man the match performances of what Lukaku is possible, could do. That's his bread and butter. The drop between it. In Belgium, that's just the way they play too. He drops deep near the halfway line, he links play, runs into space. He's very good at it, right? Thing with Lukaku is that when it comes to being a possession, I know I use this term so much, but when it comes to being a possession-based attacking team, he needs to possess the ability to work in tiny spaces.
Yeah.
And right now, that with Chelsea, is that there seems to be a problem, yes, with his first touch, this and that. But we can't have Lukaku receiving the ball with no idea what his next move is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the problem. Yes, you can find Lukaku these passes. You can get Kovacic to play a random forward pass out of nowhere. But the thing is, it
Mm-hmm.
always goes back to that problem. You
There's
could,
no one around him.
yeah, there is no one around him to create space for Lukaku or to create space for attacks to be formed between the lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we cannot utilize. Miss, there's probably once or twice every game that we somehow break through between the lines. We
Mm.
somehow break through here, and we could see in that 1 or 2 seconds that Lukaku links play really, really well when somebody is visible around him.
Mm.
Listen, if
We
Kai
saw that
is
against
there,
Palace. There was a one nice layoff to Pulisic. I think there was a direct ball to Lukaku, and Pulisic was in and around his vicinity, and he just chested the ball for Pulisic to then be on his stride and go forward. And similarly, he did this in Club World Cup as well against Palmeiras, where Pulisic was set up for a shot off the back of Lukaku's layoff. Um, Unfortunately, Pulisic couldn't put it away. But you're right. Like whenever he's had the opportunity to do something, he's done something right, I suppose.
yeah, because you can't have, Kai, if he's an inside forward, you can't have my brother up here and then Lukaku here, and then we have Ziyech want to play deep with
And this
himself
is what I
here.
mean. This is what like I found that whole situation with Kai so out wide was weird.
I mean, it wasn't weird to me because, I mean, if you think about it tactically, that many times Kai was able to, I mean, be the kind of, when Sarr roamed in here, where Alonso is, when Sarr roamed
Mm,
here, Kai kind of came into a left wing position, and then um, Pulisic was able to operate between the lines and overload and make runs in behind. But
mm.
at the end of the day, Pulisic is a wide winger and Kai is a inside forward, so you might as well do that. That was
Do you reckon
confusing.
the personnel was a bit wrong to have them in those positions? You saying that it would have been far better had they just switched around?
Um, I think what it really does, I think, is that no, I it on paper it would make sense, but I think it made sense because when Kai starts in a wide position and Pulisic is between the lines, it gives Kai direct inroad to join up front as a forward, right? While
Mm,
Pulisic could pretend Alonso is Pulisic and Rudiger is Sa. Sorry guys, I can't change the names, but just pretend this is Sa and this is Pulisic, right? When
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Pulisic plays as a winger, I mean as a midfielder, he can still find that numerical superiority and that width while Kai roams up as a wide striker. I think that was the plan. Because if we had Pulisic here and then Kai leaving his role to become a striker, there would be a complete missing area in midfield where we would basically have no central threat to attack from, and all our attacks will just be based here. And that could run
Mm,
us into some trouble when recycling play, etc. So it made sense. But back to Lukaku now.
mm.
Um, yeah, when he receives a random ball from Kovacic, many times there's nobody around him. But Miss, we've been seeing this since December. So I feel Tuchel isn't stupid and our players isn't stupid. So the
Mm.
question is there something else Tuchel's trying to do that is just not coming off? Or is just all players working and not doing what Tuchel's telling them to do? It could be either or.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't think it's either or because Ziyech suffers every game and is all over. Kai suffers every day and is all over. Pulisic suffers and is all over. So I don't think it's work rate in getting into the positions they need to be. Miss, I honestly think it's instructions. I have to
Mm.
believe it's instructions because we've seen we've seen in times that when players get in close proximity, we have that ability to play that one touch beautiful football.
Mm-hmm.
But it really makes me question what Tuchel wants to do. I'm not questioning Tuchel's ability, nor his expertise, nor how good he is. But I'm just questioning at this moment in February, what is he trying to do
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
philosophical point of view, not from a systematic point of view, but from a philosophy. What football? If you're trying to play long ball football, just make
Yeah,
it clear. But it isn't even that clear because
yeah,
we just do. We have a long ball set up, but we do one long ball.
yeah. I've always been an advocate of I don't care how you win the game, but stay true to what you want to do. So if it's long balls and play direct, play with two strikers up front, and you want to play off the second balls, then do it and do it well. And at least then the fans can be like, okay, I understood what Thomas Tuchel was trying to do. But in recent times, it's not a coincidence that not only our attackers look so lost when it comes to the final third situation, we look quite comfortable when it's built up from the back and we come to the midfield, we look okay. As soon as it's in the final third, we are so lost. There is no, as you said, players are not compact to find those little, working in tight spaces. There doesn't seem to be a philosophy as to how we want to open that team up. We look comfortable in the back. We look comfortable, somewhat comfortable in the middle of the park. Gets to the final third, it all sort of disappears. And I find that very odd that Thomas Tuchel hasn't found a solution. And this goes side by side with the fact that we, in recent times, we don't create enough opportunities. It's simple. It's a very simple thing. We can see against Palace. I think it was one really good opportunity for N'Golo Kante in the first half, and in the second half, I can't really recall any huge opportunities except for that cross coming in from Alonso where Ziyech scored. Besides that, it's a lot of set pieces where we try and penetrate, but we don't break teams down. We don't create plethora of chances, and I find that very, very strange. On top of all the things that you've said, it's not like we don't have the players. Well, like we've got, as you said, 70 million Kai, 40 million Ziyech, 100 million Lukaku, 50 million Pulisic, I believe, as well. Like Timo Werner, 50 million. Like we've got players. We've got players to be able to do this. But it's strange. It's strange. Let me take the tactical board out. Let's end this with some final thoughts, I suppose. Ryan, we've got Lille coming up. I don't know how much you watch Lille. We've got Lille coming up in the Champions League. I don't think they're doing that well. Last I checked, they're like 10th or something in the table in French league. And then we've got Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final. The good thing is we generally do well in cups. We've been winning trophies. But this season, we haven't been able to beat Liverpool. There's been 2 draws. What's your thoughts moving into the Lille game? I mean, are you confident we can take control against Lille? Or are you sort of weary that this Lille team could just pose a bit of a surprise package on us?
I think when you look at how Chelsea plays football, if you set up in the right way, you could neuter our attack completely. You could neuter our. I mean, I don't know why teams. Sorry if the opposition get people hate me about talking tactics. I could make Chelsea look bad, but I don't know why people set up in a narrow 5-3-2 and allow us to attack wide. You saw what happened when Crystal Palace matched our width with 2 lines, not 1 line, but 2 lines of width in a
Yeah.
4-2-3-1. We had no ideas. We can attack centrally. We can attack from wide areas. We had to put on 2 sixes who was attacking and expose our back line just to attack. But in Champions League football, if we do that, we could lose, you know. And so the thing is, I would say that any team that matches our width and midfield with their second line of defense, meaning that if they set up like in a 4-5-1 and allow our center backs just to play side to side, soon as that ball approaches that midfield area of a 5, we could lose that ball and that's it. They could hit us on the break and we will
Yeah.
lose. That's how to beat Chelsea. Match our width and compactness in midfield. Do not come with that 5-3-2 nonsense or that anything like that. Even if you want to go more compact, go 5-4-1. But once you
Yeah.
match that width in the second line, Chelsea has nowhere to go because they're wide overload. The only way to create that wide overload is to get more defensive players into it, and you're gonna
Yeah.
expose the defense even more. You would need players like Jorginho joining in attack and stuff, which is what Chelsea don't do. So as
Mm.
I said, they just because of how one-dimensional Chelsea is with their attacks, we're not able to attack centrally. We are not able to pass quickly enough to switch play quickly enough. We
Yeah.
don't recycle ball quickly enough to capitalize on spaces when teams don't shift as fast to the next side as possible.
That thing really annoys me, Ryan. The fact that when we can see a clear space available, whether it be on the right side or on the left side, and you can see the opposition still haven't got around covering that area, we're not zipping the ball in
Yeah, very
to capitalize.
lackadaisical. Um, it seems, but anything is like these things need to be drilled. Like it shouldn't be
Mm.
they guessing and then they happen to see it and then they do it 2 seconds late. It's supposed to be wait, so much
Yeah.
defenders are here. There must be
Instincts.
space out there.
Instincts.
That should be the first thing we should do. They should be
Yeah.
trained. I just I'm really worried about Chelsea going forward. I believe we're in a top four race, and I have a feeling that we could miss out on top four if we don't fix things. Right now, we are, you know, scraping it by late tactical changes,
Mm.
but that isn't sustainable. We need to see a change in philosophy, or not even a change in philosophy. We just need to see a philosophy,
No,
and
you're right, man. I mean, if it wasn't for a scorcher of a cross from Alonso and a classic finish from Ziyech, we were heading towards a draw. Like we couldn't really see anything that was Chelsea, you know, as if they were like penetrating Palace time after time after. Like there wasn't any of that. It was a one moment basically, and we capitalized and we made it happen. You're right. This is not sustainable in the long run. You cannot expect every game one moment, and you cannot expect every game where Zaha misses two really good chances. Sooner or later, those chances are going to go in. Um, and it's a game of, I suppose this is where I really do like the whole ideology of expected goals and expected saves and whatnot, because they do. That's the only thing. That's probably the only stat that I appreciate a lot, because that is a true indicator as to how things will pan out. Will it balance out? Um, will it come back into for example, if a team has got high expected goals and not banging in goals, you expect that, okay, down the track those opportunities will go in, and vice versa. If a team has been overperforming, sooner or later it's going to come back because you're overperforming. So it is what it is. Ryan, thank you so much for your time, my man. Once again, another fantastic conversation. Hope our viewers have got something out of this. We talked about, I suppose, a lot to do with how we want to attack our opposition, since we've known that there is no Chilwell, there's no Reece James, and it seems like we are still in a limbo and we're still trying to figure out what to do. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. Smash the like button if you're here, and make sure you follow Ryan Gunnis at Ryan Gunnis Twitter. Make sure you keep following him and build that particular profile up for Ryan. He's doing a madness, as you can see. And yeah, until next time, everyone, take care and see ya.